Well, we're glad to have Dr. Lindsey Hoffman. She is the chair of the International DIPG DMG Registry. And what she's going to talk today is a little bit about what makes the registry special and how it's helpful for parents and also researchers. So, Dr. Hoffman.
Thank you very much, Keith. It's a pleasure to speak with everyone today by video. And I look forward to sharing a little bit of just basic information about the registry. So the DIPG registry, as its name implies, is an international effort. So it involves a total of 15 countries and 116 participating sites. We currently have about 1,200 patients enrolled on the registry, and this has led to a lot of important research. So currently there are 30 plus a couple more recently research studies that are underway as a result of data and study within the registry, and a total of 8 publications that have resulted from registry-related research. So the data that make up the registry is fairly comprehensive. So we include a lot of basic demographic information as well as some clinical information. So that includes very basic information about who the patient is, as well as their diagnosis and the treatment that has been received. Another unique aspect of the registry is that it includes radiology data. So all of the imaging that's obtained from the time of diagnosis throughout all of treatment is obtained and collected at the operations center and can be used to evaluate new or interesting research questions based on radiology. The registry also includes information about tissue. So that includes both the histopathology, so looking at the tissue under the microscope, as well as genomic data. So all of those data are linked. And again, it's as comprehensive as possible, making that data very valuable. So an important question about how the registry is different from other registries. So there are a lot of different databases out there that are used for different purposes. The goal of the registry is to provide the most comprehensive data about DIPG or DMG as possible, so that we can learn in depth in terms of from in-depth investigations of the data. So the data within the registry is fundamentally different from other databases that are collected as part of clinical trials or other research efforts that tend to have one bent or another. So there are a number of different databases and efforts regarding genomics specifically. So those databases tend to have lesser information in terms of the in-depth clinical and radiology data. So the DIPG DMG registry, again, is different because the data are much more in-depth. They come directly from the patients themselves or from institutions treating those patients. And the data are pulled from patient records directly, rather than part of a clinical trial or other effort that often has more superficial or more tailored data based on what that effort is aiming to do. So in terms of how the data are shared, typically data are accessed through a formal research proposal that's reviewed by the Scientific Advisory Council. And so it's a little bit different in terms of the access to the data. So these days, people are very interested in having open access, but it is important that the registry data be protected because they are patient data, and we want to be careful about the ability of folks to identify who a patient is. And so a lot of the effort in terms of the process and procedure for accessing the data is built in for protection of that data and to ensure the integrity of the data that's being used and shared within the scientific community. There have been some questions about second consults within the registry, and we are working to tailor this process a little bit more. So we are aiming to make early contact with patients or families who reach out to the registry. So in terms of how long it takes for us to get back to patients and families, we're aiming for within 5 days of initial consult or initial contact with the registry, hopefully even shorter than that. So we're aiming to make early contact with patients and families, and then defining how we can best help in terms of a formal consultation, which can take a little bit longer. And most of the length of time that's required for that relates to getting getting records from medical records from your institution, getting imaging sent over, and then reviewing that formally and getting back with you. So we're aiming to make early contact within 5 days, hopefully shorter than that, and then defining if having a formal consult would be of use. And then we can work with your treating institution to get records that can be formally reviewed. And that does include review of your initial MRI or subsequent MRIs if relevant. And the goal of that is really to confirm the diagnosis based on imaging. So it would not result in a full MRI report that you'd get from your radiologist at your treating institution, but rather a confirmation of, is this a typical DIPG or an atypical, or are there features of it that are atypical that might guide you sort of in a slightly different direction. And then lastly, this is the website for the DIPG registry, which we'd welcome any of you to get on to understand more about both the resources available and also the research that's being done, as well as clinical trials and things that we hope are useful for the community. And we're happy to make contact at any point. So there's information in terms of contacting the Registry Operations Center. And if any other specific questions, we're always happy to take those on as well. So don't hesitate to reach out.